The commercial realities of a business don't mean anything unless the human side is dealt with first. That was a very big epiphany that came to me out of the last sort of 12, 18 months and the hundreds of conversations with owners that I've had that don't materialize in a slide deck because they're probably a little bit too personal.
Our last one of our big six question for you. Why is it that the gap between knowing and doing is getting wider? And we've seen it. And part of our proposition is to close that gap at Encore. We can also describe it as the gap between intention and action. I'm going to do this. I think this is the right thing. Yet intention, the gap between those two is getting wider. Question is, how do you stop that from impacting your business valuation? And what should our listeners do to ensure some of these themes, if they think that's important to them, they actually do something about it, as opposed to admiring the problem and going, I probably should do that one day. Let's get back to what I've always done.
Let me start by reframing that. The gap between knowing and doing is also the gap between I've got a really good strategy and business plan and I know what to do, but then there's the implementation and the execution of that. Probably the two most common conversations, problems that I've had with financial advice business owners since the early 2000s would be boiled down into these two. What's my business plan, my strategy? Where is it that I want to take the business and where do I want to be? Which is quite ironic because advisors, business owners of advice businesses are brilliant at helping clients understand where they're at and where they want to get to and put a strategy and plan in place. But the plumber has a leaky tap syndrome. It just is what it is. And then the second bucket of that conversation is, okay, I've got that, or I know what that is, but how do I actually do it? And that's okay to not know. So the first thing that I'd say in that is, for whatever reason, and it's not this podcast to go into it, we think we have to know it all. We think we have to know everything about the commercials of a business and strategy and design and business models and pod models and client engagements, client experience, sales and marketing, operations, tech stacks, people and culture, scorecards, professional development plans, governance. I can go on with the 99 things you need to get right inside the business. And so therefore we have this fear of then saying, I don't know, or I'm not too sure, and then asking for help with that. And that help can be a fellow business owner in the community, a mate, staff members, external coach, or a professional in that particular area. And so I think, to be frank, Brendan, the number one thing, certainly when I've reflected on my 30-odd year career and 50 years on this earth, generally the number one thing stopping me from getting somewhere or doing something is me. My own insecurities, my own imposter syndromes, my own fears, my own vulnerabilities, thinking that I have to have it all and know it all. You know, the best people I've worked with in this industry and outside of that are the people that are prepared to say, I don't know, but then going to step into asking questions, right? And being curious. One of the best mentors I ever had, she said to me once, Mark, you don't need to know all the answers if you have all the right questions. Man, that fundamentally took my career on a different trajectory. I started getting good at just figuring out what were the right questions to ask at the right time. And people are so much willing to help you with them with the right answer. So number one, just look in the mirror. Number two, get good at asking questions and being curious, and start with the people that you've got in your business. You hired them for a reason. We can get into practicalities of productivity and project plans and scoping documents and how do you break stuff down in the widgets, and that's all important too, but it will mean nothing unless those first two are hit. And to be honest and frank with you, Brendan, when you asked me that first question, I was probably going to go down pathway number two. The commercial realities of a business don't mean anything unless the human side is dealt with first. That was a very big epiphany that came to me out of the last sort of 12, 18 months and the hundreds of conversations with owners that I've had that don't materialize in a slide deck because they're probably a little bit too personal, and maybe people are also looking for the silver bullet, which doesn't really exist.
Excellent. Love that. I'm going to finish in a minute with a question without any notice. I'm going to give you a little bit of notice of thinking back in 2025, all the advice leaders, advisors, CEOs, future leaders within firms you and I have worked with. What are the two traits you admire the most in the leaders you've worked with? So think about that for a minute whilst you're thinking about it. To wrap up the big six of 2026 for our listeners, the rise of the COTO. Do you have a COTO? Do you need one? And have you reviewed your operating model for the future? Operating model, governance, who's chairing your board, what's your structure to set your business up for the future, not the past. Second, is your sales engine rusted? We would say it probably is. How do you unrust it? Why is that important? How do you start? Third, advisors are on the move. Are they leaving your firm, the best ones, or are the best ones joining your firm in 2026? What's your strategy around talent, advisors, key talent, AI and technology? Is that going to transform your business, or is it going to disrupt your business and your value proposition? Where do you start? What are you going to do? How do you confront that and not, as you say, Mark, find an excuse to just go, that won't impact me, I'll leave that till 2027. Conflicts of interest. What are you accepting? What should it look like? Not just in your business, but our financial planning profession. And what are you going to do about it in 2026? And the gap between intention, action, knowing, doing, having a strategy and executing that strategy. What are you going to do to actually implement what you've heard or thought from this or all the other predictions of 2026? And you've probably written a whole bunch of them or read a few things, and it's been some great ones. What are you actually going to do in 2026? So to wrap up, of all the leaders from last year, and we reflected on 2025 recently, what are the two traits that really you've admired in the people you've worked with in Encore in 2025?
It's a really cool question, Brendan. I'm going to break the mold for both you and me, and there are four. The overarching, I guess, principle or shift or the biggest growth that I saw and experienced, it was both kind of a pleasure and gratitude of being inside these businesses to see this, wasn't just the revenue and profitability growth. Sure, that was there. The thing that really underpinned that and certainly gave me way more joy, and I actually saw the joy and the pride on the owners themselves, was the growth in what I call leadership maturity. And there were really four examples. The things that I saw the most and had played back to me the most at the end was the first one, the business owners that had finally faced into confronting the difference between activity and impact. It is subtle but significant. It breaks the nexus of, are you busy or productive? The second one was that, this is hard, that they stepped back from the hero trap. I can be the financial advisor, the CEO, the MD, chair the board, run all of the projects, make all the decisions, have everybody reporting to me. I can do it all. And it's a very common one. I've fallen into that quite a few times. Let go, delegate, you trust others, and focus on the thing that will have, point number one, the greatest impact. Number three, that they shifted from the gut feel to a proper operating model, rhythm, decision-making governance model, clearly documented. Who is responsible for what? Not role descriptions, we're talking decision-making protocols, board structures, leadership teams, a proper rhythm and model, and moved away from the gut feel. And the fourth one was, and I don't think this one can be underestimated, they stepped into having harder, in the right way, conversations with staff earlier. The more difficult conversations when things aren't going to plan or as expected. It's easy to have the pat on the back and it's easy to brush over, I'll just let that one go. But when you step in and have those more difficult or crucial conversations, not only is the business perform better, but your people feel better for it too, because ironically they feel seen and then they feel supported. So I'd say those are four examples under that banner of revenue growth, profitability growth follows the leadership maturity of the people leading and running that business. It's always been that way, and it's only going to continue to be more important as we move forward and advice practices become what they are now, genuine advice businesses. We're no longer practicing. I've never enjoyed that term practice. That's the last 20, 25 years. The practice is over. We are now, it is game day. It is on the park. We are running advice businesses, firms, groups. They're big. You're supporting 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 Australian families in those engines. This is game on.
That's great. Cool. You didn't answer my question with 2. You went to 4. I thought it'd be 3, 5, or 7, or 9.
I broke even my rule, right?
So out of your comfort zone, which I love. And to answer my own question, the 2 traits and qualities I've admired and loved working with Encore, our clients in 2025, was first the curiosity. People don't wake up and pay consultants very reassuringly high fees unless they're curious about something in their business to get better, or there's a problem and they're wanting to understand more about their team, their people. The curious leaders are the best because they've never arrived, they've never been, I'm successful. They've always got that curiosity. And the second is the vulnerability. I'm always surprised with how vulnerable senior leaders can be in the right environment, and that helps them get better and their businesses get better because they're vulnerable enough to go, I don't know it all, I want to bounce ideas off, I want to test some things, I'd love some help. And that's where we can add huge value on the human side, and looking forward to more of it in 2026. Hopefully these themes resonate, whether it's one or a few of them. Our wish and hope is that you've got some value. There's some things you can do confidently, test out of your comfort zone, and enjoy 2026. And we'll be back in 2027 to see how our themes and predictions went. And so thank you, Mark. Good to have a chat.
See you, everyone. Bye.
See you all soon. Bye.